Well, I think the key thing I'm trying to get across here in everything I say is that AI can be extremely powerful and beneficial to society depending how it's used and depending how it's made.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Engati CX. I'm your host, Antas Sinha, and we're really glad to have all of you join us today. On this show, we talk to CX and technology experts from around the world. We explore, uncover, and share fresh insights on creating experiences that your customers will love, remember, and look forward to. Engati is world's leading multilingual, no-code digital CX platform available across 14 channels with 45,000 solutions created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Ingati has also been recognized as a top platform by Inc. magazine, Tech World, CIO magazine, and many others. We run the Ingati blog, video channel, and Ingati CX podcast, receiving upwards of 400,000 users annually. And now for our guest. Kevin LaGrandeur is a professor at New York Institute of Technology. His scholarly work proves that humanities and sciences have more in common than meets the eye. He has written many articles and conference presentations on digital culture, on artificial intelligence, ethics, literature, and science, and has been appointed fellow for the Institute of Ethics and Emerging Technologies. He is also the member of the Modern Language Association and the Society for Literature, Science, and the Arts. And he served on the executive board for the last organization for 2 years. His publications have appeared in journals such as Computers in Text, Computers in Humanities, and in popular publications such as USA Today. Welcome to the show, Kevin. We're excited to talk to you today.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
Great. But before we dive into the interview with Kevin, don't forget to subscribe to Ingati and tap on the bell icon to get access to exclusive content from thought leaders across the globe. All right, Kevin. So, shall we start with the interview?
Sure.
All right. So, my first question to you is: how has the pandemic shaped human centered artificial intelligence? What influence do you believe human centered AI would have on future of work?
Well, that term human-centered AI refers to AI that's more human-friendly and therefore more easily and widely usable. That is more understandable and usable across disciplines and occupations, and therefore can be used to solve a wider variety of human problems. So the COVID pandemic has certainly spurred, is a big problem, and has certainly spurred unique uses of AI to help solve this very human problem. One example of this is that China and South Korea have used AI-backed applications to track who's come into contact with the virus. Another example is that Daniel Rubin, a professor at Stanford University, has partnered with Chinese and Thai researchers to make a machine learning system to improve the accuracy of radiology-based COVID-19 diagnosis to make their model more robust without compromising patient privacy. So that innovation is called federated learning, and it helps train machine learning systems, AI, without centralizing data. So it helps keep patients' information secure and private, and it helps improve data access for the physicians. Those are two good examples, I think, of how the pandemic has has sort of made AI evolve, and AI has helped evolve other things about our sciences.
All right, that was some brandy information, Kevin. That's great to know. Uh, Moving on to my next question. What do you think is the preemptive steps organizations can take while bringing in AI to their workplace, and how can they reap benefits that AI offers?
Yeah, let me talk first about the influence of human-centered AI on the future of work itself, and then get to those two questions. I think they're all connected. So
Absolutely.
I think regarding the future of, or sorry, of the influence human-centered AI has on the future of work, that depends on how it's used. AI could make working with technology more accessible to more people, especially those who can't, for whatever reason, work with highly technical tools and concepts. For instance, the average factory worker just can't suddenly become a computer specialist to keep their job. But a really good human centered AI that operates sort of like a super Siri, um, would be usable by almost anyone, thereby preserving jobs. Careful about how we do these things, though, because on the other hand, AI that understands or interprets human reactions better can also be used to deprive people of their privacy. An example of that is that some businesses in China are already making workers wear these sensor caps on their heads that feed data on their emotional states into an AI that then manages them and their work. And that's kind of a scary concept of having AI suddenly manage human beings in a workplace. So regarding preemptive steps that organizations can take when bringing AI into the workplace and a framework that they might use, I think the answer to both of those questions is to put more consideration into which AI to adopt for your company and to be very clear on what specific advantages it'll give the company and how it'll affect both the tangibles and intangibles of your business. So, for instance, what specific processes will AI improve in your company? Do you have the peripheral infrastructure and the knowledge to use it effectively? And besides improved capital returns and better processes, do you have, for instance, a plan for how to deal humanely with employees who are displaced or put out of work by that AI? What are your plans for retraining those workers? Is the new AI user so this won't be difficult to do? How can the employee adapt versus just being made redundant? Um, so I think those are the things I would say about those topics.
All right, Kevin, that was very insightful. Adding on top of that question, what do you think are the most common concerns that come up during discussion of ethics and emerging while discussing emerging technologies such as AI, IoT, etc.?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the most common concerns are about the following things. About data privacy first and foremost. Privacy is the biggest issue. It's not being paid enough attention to at the moment. Also, data bias. That is, biases built into the data that are loaded for teaching AI how to deal with situations. Also, general cybersecurity, especially with IoT, the Internet of Things. This is the biggest problem because most of those IoT applications are made by small third-party vendors, and those third-party vendors often don't have enough money or wherewithal to be able to put in good cybersecurity. So, for instance, if I have um, a thermostat on my wall to control the temperature of my house and it's hooked up to my home network, who knows what kind of cybersecurity is put into the thermostat? If it's no good or there isn't any, somebody could hack into my house network system by the back door provided by that poorly secured thermostat. Um, some other things to consider as dangerous and need to be dealt with. The monetary and the maybe the wide and fair access to technology is another concern. Equitable distribution of benefits from that technology. Do only poor people get left out, and only the rich people get the benefits? The monetary and social costs also have to be taken into consideration. Who's going to pay for the distribution of this beneficial technology? Also, in terms of workers, will they gain by this technology or will they lose jobs? And I think the last thing is the potential abuse by hackers and by powerful governments of using new AI-based technology. Hackers can use it to get into other technology. It, the AI itself could be poorly secured, and governments, as I said before, with the example of China, um, they they could be abusing new technology. An example of this is some of the COVID tracking technology that's AI based is already being sort of refashioned to use after COVID is gone to monitor society. An example of that is I'm sort of pick on China, but they're doing this kind of thing. The government there has already started repurposing tracking software to um, reuse it as sort of a social networking device, and by giving coupons and things for people shopping, so that people keep using it and thereby keep being tracked by the software, even when it's not necessary for fighting a disease.
Absolutely, Kevin. I believe privacy is really one of very important concerns that we should really talk more about. And I believe that is what's happening around the world now. People are getting more aware about, uh, more concerned about privacy and whatnot. So I think that's a great insight that you offered us. So my next question to you is, what do you think is the future of AI? What are the new technology trends do we see coming in this year, 2021?
Yeah, AI, I think, is most advanced in the areas of visual recognition and natural language processing, also called NLP. And I think this is going to continue, these two trends. I mean, it's pretty clear industry is moving in those directions to further capitalize on those two areas. So this can both be beneficial and potentially dangerous. For example, AI can manipulate images and language now in amazingly powerful ways. On the positive side, image recognition can be used to protect people's devices, such as with the newest smartphone login procedures, facial recognition. And it can be used by AI to diagnose diseases, for instance, like COVID, as I mentioned before. Um, and it can be used for radiology diagnosis. In fact, that's being done a lot already. On the other hand, the negative side, deep fake videos are a very dangerous thing in the immediate horizon. Same with natural language processing. A company called OpenAI uh, has made a prototype AI called GPT-3, which is in beta testing right now, and which generates human-like writing. Uh, it's astoundingly versatile. You can feed it one phrase or just one word, and it can generate everything from a business document to an essay to poetry to computer coding or even text messages. But in beta testing, it's generated some horribly biased and insulting messages, for instance, text messages, and it could be used to generate propaganda in great and rapid abundance. So these things are all prototype right now, but can be used for great good or great evil, depending on how they're um, rolled out, how they're protected, and how they're built. Um, and the other thing about GPT-3, a text generator like that can write whole documents, say business documents or legal documents, they put certain groups of employees out of business. For instance, paralegals are already being put out of business by AI generated documents, legal documents. So these are things that need to be taken into account. Um, I think mainly by retraining businesses, like I said before, they have to have a good commitment to and plan for retraining employees who are being made redundant by these kinds of innovations. And also, um, the new technology needs to be made user friendly enough so that people who don't have the benefit of a university education, for instance, could learn how to use those technologies in their work, so that you don't have just a small segment of society at the top of the educational spectrum who still have jobs.
Yeah, Kevin. So, from hearing what you're saying, it is one of my personal questions. Whether should we be more excited about what's coming ahead for AI, or shall we be a little scared? Should we be skeptic as a society in general with regards to what AI can offer us?
Well, I think the key thing I'm trying to get across here in everything I say is that AI can be extremely powerful and beneficial to society depending how it's used and depending how it's made. So I think the key thing is we have to be judicious about how we use artificial intelligence. That is, we have to be careful about how we use it and careful about how we construct it so that it doesn't deprive us of key human freedoms and human rights. Um, and I think there's already a strong movement among scientists and among people who are ethicists like me, and business people too, I think, are trying to be careful and adapt or adopt these carefully constructed ways of making AI. So I think we're stumbling along right now, but things can be better. Things could also get a lot worse. We're right on the sort of cusp of which way it's going to go, and I think it's really important to think about these things, about how we roll out AI at this point.
Absolutely, Kevin. I think they were really great insights that you offered us. Do you have any other sound bites that you would like to leave our audience with?
Just to try to keep in mind that both the benefits and dangers of AI are within our control at the moment, to keep it that way. We need to be careful to develop guidelines right now about how we make and use AI.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for giving us your time. Your insights were really valuable, and I know our audience is going to enjoy this interview a lot. We'll back with a new expert soon, so stay tuned, and we'll see you around for the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.